Today is a great day to be living a life of vitality and thriving in all areas. Thanks again for taking the time to learn more about the 7 secrets to lasting, sustainable weight loss and improved health. At this point, we've already established that if a person's looking for short-lived, minimal results, then what we're talking about here is of no help to them. They're looking for a magical potion or pill and things of that nature. And of course, we all desire to have quick, responses like that. But we're talking about something entirely different. We're not talking about just losing a few pounds real quick just to gain it all back. We're not talking about, losing symptoms and feeling better for one day, but then 3 years down the road, we're in a critical state. We're talking about health and losing weight and being well and living life to the fullest for a lifetime. We want sustainable results. If you recall, Einstein once defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over, yet expecting a different outcome or result. Listen, for too long, people have been doing basically the same thing over and over and over, yet again, they're expecting a different outcome and a different result. And that clearly hasn't worked. What's even worse is that when it comes to the way we believe about losing weight or being healthy, we've been led to think that if you want to lose weight or you want to gain health, then you're going to have to sacrifice and you're going to have to suffer. And so now what happens is we think that getting healthy or losing weight has to do with suffering, but we're not even thinking clearly in the sense that it's by not losing weight or not being healthy that we suffer the most. When's the last time you were overweight and you felt great about yourself? Where you look in the mirror and you're ecstatic with what you see? Or if a person who is sick and they're diabetic, they're taking medications all the time, blood pressure, cancer, heart disease, whatever it might be, the suffering is not in being healthy or doing what it takes to get healthy. The suffering, how we lose out on life so much and not able to do the things that we love, is because of the poor health. It's because of the weight gain and the things associated with not functioning, expressing life at our full potential. You see, studies have shown that when it comes to losing weight, that 60% of people who have tried to lose weight try to do it at least 6 times. Of those people, what they found is that 34% of those people actually have tried to lose weight at least 20 times. But what's shocking is that the remainder of those people, well over 60% of the people who have tried to lose weight, have tried it more times than they can count. Listen, we've got to put an end to this right away. We've got to stop trying to lose weight and stop trying to diet and stop trying to cover up symptoms and start to recognize what it truly means to be healthy, what it means to be able to sustain great weight loss and while achieving it and transforming our lives and having great health. We have to start realizing that if all we want is short term, then keep on treating side effects. But if lasting results is what you desire more than anything, then we have to identify the underlying cause or causes and be precise in treating or focusing on those instead. Because it's important to remember that when it comes right down to it, weight gain and poor health are side effects to abnormal functioning and poor physiology. To get right down to it, to fully understand and appreciate that statement, you have to first understand that weight gain and poor health are nothing more than the side effect of abnormal disrupted physiology and poor function. In other words, when your body is working at its absolute best, exactly the way you're created, your body's gonna function, it's gonna heal, you're gonna feel great, you're gonna look great, and you will be well. But then again, if your body's not functioning to that high level, then you're not going to be healthy and you're not going to feel great and you're not going to be well. In saying that, what I want to share with you today has to do with procedures and tricks and things that people oftentimes in the weight loss industry are using in a means for help, but these are some of the things that I strongly disagree with because they go against understanding the underlying cause and rather, once again, focus on treating the symptoms or the side effects. It's no secret that there are more people overweight than ever before. The numbers continue to rise year after year. It's continued to rise, in fact, so much that they have to keep, through the last several years, increase in the parameters because so many more people are unfortunately suffering as a result of this. And quite frankly, doctors' offices are now filling up with people who are not just a little overweight, but are overweight beyond safe parameters. As a result, they're doing the best they can, but most doctors have no familiarity with the true research and how to help people to manage their weight. And so therefore they're left with lack of understanding, and therefore a lot of times they find themselves recommending some type of crazy radical surgery, something like bariatric surgery, or perhaps even going back and saying, hey, you know what, you need to find a program where you can count your calories. And there's merit to that in some degree, but as we've already talked about, for most people, what we found is that completely takes people off course, because once again, it avoids the underlying cause, and it doesn't even take in consideration the long-term effects of a person truly healing and being well. Please understand, I'm in no way implying that these doctors or weight loss programs and consultants are trying to intentionally cause you harm. But I will say that because of a lack of understanding of the long-term implications and what it means for you to achieve your goal, you may achieve short-term success, yes, and that's always exciting. That makes us feel good at that moment. But in the same sense, your life and how you live your life goes far beyond just how you are for a week or 2 weeks or even a couple months or a couple years for that matter. And so we need to focus on understanding the principles of what it takes so that way you can be that full expression of life. Please let me take a moment and explain why I believe that these procedures and programs and things of that nature are not only causing people, short-term harm, but they're causing long-term harm as well, even to the point where it could be shortening their lives. And I know that sounds drastic and maybe even intense, but please give me a moment before you cast judgment. Please understand, when it comes to surgeries, whether it be something like a bariatric procedure, whether it be liposuction, or maybe even more natural things like lasers to where they can precisely or specifically zap the fat and make it disappear, the concern that I have with that is, again, that it's ignoring the underlying cause as to why a person struggled with poor health and with weight gain. And if we ignore that underlying cause, the concern is always not just that they're going to gain their weight back. We get that, and we totally understand that. And unfortunately, so many people suffer as a result of that. But it goes far beyond that. It goes to the point of how is that going to negatively affect them, not just in the present or the near future, but how is it going to affect them in the days to come? To explain that further, let me just talk with you briefly. A short while ago, I was listening to a speaker who was talking about some of the common habits that highly successful people have in common. One of the observations that was made when it came to highly successful people are the habits and patterns that they developed and how their atmosphere is. Now you might be thinking, well, what in the world does that have to do with long-term sustainable weight loss or improved health? So the interesting thing about these people is they chose to have libraries in their homes because they understood the value of impact. They had this level of understanding. They had this level of where they desire and they value knowledge and they desire wisdom. And as a result, they're able to accomplish more and have greater successes because they see the value of improving their wisdom and knowledge and level of understanding instead of what some people would consider time wasting when it came to watching TV all the time. And so getting back to the whole idea and why I brought that up. So once again, when it comes down to having a surgery or procedure, some kind of trick, you have to understand that once again, in these cases, most of the time, it's totally ignoring the underlying cause. And this is where the struggle comes, to where it's just a short while after these procedures, the majority of people find themselves where they continue to not just gain the weight, but oftentimes more so than ever before. But it doesn't stop there. Sadly, oftentimes what will continue to happen is they'll develop more and more health complications, more imbalances, more hormone or neurotransmitter disruption, more cellular dehydration. It continues to create more chaos and affects a person negatively for the long term. You see, we have to identify the underlying why. And oftentimes when people come in or at a restaurant, I'll hear people refer to themselves as the dieter. In other words, what they may say is, well, because I'm dieting, maybe I'm not going to have that birthday cake or that extra piece of pizza, or because I'm on a diet, I'm not going to eat the cheese sticks. And the thing behind that, and what's so sad, is that's often happening in our culture. And the problem being is that that person not only is oftentimes embarrassed and humiliated in the fact that they would even need a diet or that they're partaking in a diet, but then what's more sad, in my opinion, is the fact of everybody else around is usually living recklessly. They're eating things they should never eat. They're having their own health struggles, but in the same sense, they look at themselves as being okay, that I don't have to necessarily take full responsibility for my own health. So the consciousness then is the dieter thinks they're the one who's temporarily on a program where they're not partaking of certain things. So it's a temporary thing. Whereas the non-dieter has having this idea that because I don't have the same problems as you, or because I'm not willing to take responsibility, I'm going to go ahead and continue living the way that I always have. I'm not going to change anything. Instead, perhaps, maybe we should change the way we think and the way we act and the way we speak. And instead, not focusing on dieting for short term to just lose weight, but focusing on health. You see, many times our perspective is completely wrong. Dieting is not something that you do. If I go to a restaurant, for example, I may eat healthy. I may make better choices. I may say no to a lot of things. But it's not because I'm on a diet. It's because I recognize the value of health. I recognize the value that if I want to have an impact in this world, if I want to be healthy, if I want to be around to enjoy my family and my family to enjoy me, then I have to take responsibility for my life and my health. And I have to change my level of thinking. I have to identify these underlying causes. I have to recognize what builds health and what tears health down. And I've seen it happen too many times where a patient has come into my office and they've tried these other procedures or surgeries in the past. I've had patients who have had these procedures, even though I've tried to discourage from doing that and trying to help them, but they look at it in terms of like, well, maybe my insurance is going to pay for it or whatever else. And as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't mean anything if it's not producing the outcome that you really desire. But with all that aside, what's so sad is when a person reaches in their pocket to grab their keys out and a candy bar wrapper falls out. And they look at you and say, well, doc, I used to have a big candy bar and now I'm eating the smaller one. And they have this idea that that's a solution. So they had the surgery, they lost the weight, and they're eating smaller portions. But the question still remains, what is health? What do you want? What do you want for your future? What do you want for your presence? What do you want for your life? And so when it comes to being healthy, these secrets to sustainable weight loss and improved health, they're not complicated. But you have to understand that you have to ask the right questions. You have to look at the choices that come in your life. And although this may seem common sense, you have to then take it a step further and say, well, although it does make sense, are your actions speaking louder than your words? In other words, are you saying one thing and doing something completely contrary? Are you a builder of health? Are you doing things on a regular basis that's promoting health? Do you understand what health is and how to achieve that? Because if you don't understand the basics of that, then sadly what happens is you find yourself like so many other people, sadly, who they want health so desperately. They're willing to, just like those studies, do things not just 6 times, not just 20 times, but the large majority of people wanted to lose weight so badly, so desperately, they needed help that they were willing to do a weight loss program so many times that they lost count. The point being is that what if we could simplify this whole process? What if you knew exactly what to do to not just achieve, but be able to sustain? And that's what it really all comes down to. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "The future belongs to those who choose to believe in the beauty of their dreams." What dreams do you have that need to be achieved? How might your life be different once you achieve them? And is what you're doing right now today enough to allow that amazing accomplishment? Until next time, God bless.